Ladies can save all day long with coupons in the checkout line. However, when a man wants to apply a discount during a night out, he could be referred to as a cheap date. To clarify, I did not ask this question because I took a lady out on a first date at the supermarket. It was pointed out in a reply that when a woman saves and lives on her own, she is strong and independent. Society expects the man to already be wealthy by current standards. I support women's rights and believe in the future being female. I am not trying to criticize anyone. I recently went through my first divorce and am getting out of debt while trying to date without a car. Have a nice day. Story 1. Joe Manganiello once opined, "Women are sex objects. Men are success objects." By that, he meant that if women are unfairly judged by how they look and how attractive they seem to men, men are conversely judged by their ability or lack thereof to provide for a woman. To a certain subset of women, a date is an opportunity for a man to prove he has the resources to provide for her and that he is willing to devote those resources to her. To such women, the ideal man would not have to save or apply for discounts because he would be so wealthy that even a fancy night out would be a drop in the bucket to him. Quality men do not value women solely for their looks. Quality women do not value men solely for their wallets. Story 2. I've always heard cheap date meaning someone who is easy to please, especially on a date. For example, a cheap date would be someone who is perfectly happy with rail liquor and hamburgers. Could be due to regional or experiential differences. Story 3. I think it depends on the date and how you suggest it. If you take someone on a nice date where they feel special or important, and then you use a coupon at the end, the vibe goes from "he's treating me because I matter" to "we're here because it was cheap for him." For many people, this changes the experience from being about them to being about you. On the other hand, if you are upfront and say, "Hey, I have a coupon for this place. Do you want to check it out with me?" you would probably get a better response. Then it goes from you being cheap to you inviting them on an adventure or sharing a treat. They feel special again because you chose to use your coupon with them instead of alone or with someone else. Some people will always dislike coupons. Don't date them. They are wrong and you don't need that in your life. For most others, it is not about whether you use a coupon but how you use it. Story 4. Because people who care about an expensive date are not interested in getting to know you, they just want to be spoiled. Story 5. Double standards. For anyone saying not to be frugal when taking out that special girl but not saying anything about them being cheap, you are the reason double standards persist because you allow it and expect others to allow it. Story 6. The term cheap date means you are easy to please monetarily, not that you spend less. It is not normally used as an insult. They would just call you cheap if they wanted to insult you. Story 7. Easy indicator if you are dating an adult or an expensive lifestyle seeker. Adults get turned on by discounts. Why do you think everyone has an app for every discount possible? Story 8. Depends entirely on the context. If it feels like you are being needlessly frugal at her expense, then it can be insulting. For example, if you park a mile away and walk through the rain rather than paying $5 for the parking garage. Estimated time of arrival. Fair or not, dates are similar to interviews, at least early on before you are serious. You want to make good impressions. You would not show up to an interview in your gym clothes. Story 9. I dated a woman who would bring the coupons. It was adorable. Some women are into that kind of thing. Maybe you need women like that. Story 10. The irony is that I know people with 8-figure net worths who use coupons. Anything over $1,000, they will try to negotiate a better deal. It's fun. Anyone can pay full retail. Negotiation is a skill and a way of life. Warren Buffett uses McDonald's coupons all the time. The only people who discourage coupon use are those who care too much about what strangers think of them. Really wealthy people will brag about buying something at a discount. Story 11. Personally, I see this as being frugal, not cheap. If you use coupons every time, it could be a problem, but if you do not use them and go all out, it shows you are careful with money but not cheap. Story 12. As Chris Rock says, only women, children, and dogs are loved unconditionally. A man is loved based on what he can provide. Story 13. You be you. After reading a few comments and your replies, You want to argue with everyone about what you think is okay. Keep going through life that way. The good news is you won't have to waste money on 3 or 4 dates to figure out you are not compatible. Eventually, you will find someone who finds cheap sexy. Edited because I have had a few cocktails on an amazing vacation, spending money on my kids and lovely wife on the beach, and cannot type. Story 14. Depends on the woman. On our second date, I was planning to pay, but she chose the restaurant because she had a gift card and treated me instead. Life is expensive nowadays, and some women might consider using coupons or gift certificates as cheap, but others see it as being considerate with money. Managing money is one of those things couples need to be aligned on for the relationship to work. For a first date, choose something simple that does not cause financial worry. Find a nice coffee place and get to know each other. You do not have to spend over $100 on every first date to connect, and if someone expects that, move on to the next. Story 15. Men should plan inexpensive dates initially, even if they can afford better, for several reasons. 1 in 3 women asked admitted to going on a date with a man they were not interested in just to get a free meal. It helps to identify gold diggers. As far as you know, a woman you just met does not deserve for you to spend a lot of money on her. I suggest something like getting coffee, ice cream, or going on a picnic because if she genuinely likes you, she will not mind these options. Only after she demonstrates her value and genuine interest should you take her to a more expensive place. Story 16. It seems like it depends on the situation and the woman you are dating. Some understand being frugal and some do not. However, do not skimp when you are trying to make a big deal out of treating her. Story 17. See, this is why I like picnics. I can make all the food, put it in a basket, we can hike to a nice view, and it just seems really wholesome. Plus, it's way cheaper than going out and seems more romantic. Then I realized that asking a woman to go to a secluded area in the mountains while I carry a basket is intimidating. Especially considering I practiced judo for 8 years and carry myself in an intimidating way. Thinking about it, it would probably be a good 3rd or 4th date idea. I should stop asking on the first date, though. There are so many social rules. Story 18, just do it. Tell her first like it's funny. If she is in on it, she might be cool. If she is nasty about it, be happy you included her. Story 19, you kind of answer it in your post. The reason is some people in society still see a man as a resource provider. If he is tight with access to his resources, he is a difficult partner for women to take advantage of. Some women do not like this. I have also seen frugal men date and do well because they are frugal only on some things and are willing to spend money if it will make her happy. So do not worry about the extra $20 in flowers or candy, but certainly renegotiate your cell phone plan or car lease. Story 20. Because they are shallow people. My approach is to go on an inexpensive date first. It shows you the measure of a person. If a nice walk in a public park and a good coffee with conversation is considered inexpensive, it just tells me you value what I can give you over actually getting to know me. Story 21. A low-cost date is a vetting mechanism. If you are into high-maintenance gold digger types, lead with expensive items. I asked my girlfriend to come have a cup of coffee at the pier, and when she brought a thermos so she would not have to buy coffee, I knew I hit the jackpot. Story 22. Because some women have self-esteem issues and have equated how much money is spent on them with how much value they have been assigned. Story 23. You are looking at things the wrong way. When a woman you are dating makes snide remarks about you using coupons, that is her way of making it clear you are dating someone you are not compatible with. The right woman will be excited you got a deal because she will understand that is money that can be used on other things that benefit her. Now, I am not saying use a coupon on your anniversary or in front of her friends or family. That is not the time and place. But if you have a deal for a dinner out, be excited about it. If she is not excited about saving money, then she is not financially mature enough to be in a relationship in the first place. Story 24. If you are serious about yourself, you are willing to pay for it. Sorry, I couldn't get through that with a straight face. I assume this question is from the viewpoint of, I have a coupon for this nice place, so why don't we go there? Rather than, it's couples night at the meat shack, 50% off yesterday's brisket. People who call the first person in my example a cheap date have this idea. I am value personified, so anyone who wants to be with me has to provide value equal to or greater than mine, or they are not worthy and should be shunned. These people are not worthy and should be shunned. Story 25. It is always easy to spend someone else's money. You should probably take this question over to the Ask Women thread. Because if women as a whole paid for more dates, they would not say that. I always thought a cheap date was when a woman was content with happy hour finger food and drinks. Story 26. I am all for not spending a lot of money on people you barely know, but a date is not the time to redeem coupons. Story 27. It is more attractive to project the appearance of abundance and generosity. When you use a coupon, it projects the appearance of scarcity and frugality. It does not make a good first impression. That being said, there is nothing wrong with using coupons and saving money. A first date is not the best time or place to do that. Story 28. If I am paying for a date and the other person complains about how I pay for it, there will not be a second. Story 29. I am not spending a lot of money on a first date when there is no guarantee of a second. Story 30. New tradition proposal. Women pay for the first date to establish a baseline for how future dates should look. Story 31. I think that this is an artifact of online dating becoming much more prominent. Consider the following scenario. You and a girl are in the same circle of friends. You keep running into each other at bars. There is a particularly social couple who host house parties, and you keep running into her there too. Both your friends and her friends are remarking on the obvious chemistry between the two of you. One night, after playing scotch doubles at a dive bar, of course you're paired together again. You finish your rolling rock and get up the nerve to ask, "Hey, tomorrow night want to go to burgers and beer?" She blushes slightly, puts her hands on her hips, and asks, "Is this a date?" You grin and sarcastically say, "No, I just happen to have an extra coupon on an appetizer." Of course, it is a date. She rolls her eyes and retorts, "I guess every woman has her price, and apparently mine is a half-price spinach artichoke dip." This is exaggerated, but it is pretty close to how my wife and I started dating. Contrast this with the idea of swiping on a girl's online profile and telling her, "Want to go to burgers and beer? I have a coupon." It does not work. She does not know you yet. Story 32. Because they see a cheap date as us not trying. For some reason, trying to those types of women equals spending money. If you really like each other, you don't need to spend a dime, but time instead. Story 33. First dates should almost never be expensive. When they are, it is because the person paying is being used for free food and entertainment. Story 34. Frugal woman here. Using a coupon would be a positive sign for me. The world is expensive. Save where you can. I would also want to split the bill because I do not like anyone paying for me in the beginning. Story 35. Women who are frugal will appreciate an affordable date. You may take them on an expensive date initially, but after a while, they will start suggesting saving money. I am frugal, and I notice most of the women I end up with are frugal. It is similar values. Men who like to spend a lot of money will attract women who want a lot of money to be spent on them. Story 36. When did cheap date become a negative thing? Being described as a cheap date, whether you are male or female, used to be a compliment of sorts. You had no expectations of what the date would be, and the focus was on the quality of the time spent with the person rather than how much the food would cost. Story 37. Presentation is a major part of a first date. You are more than welcome to plan a cheap, thoughtful date. A picnic in the park, cook her a candlelit dinner, and so on. That is all fine. But if you say, "I do not know, I have had these coupons on the fridge for a while. It is 2 for 1 at Applebee's," that shows low effort and a lack of thoughtfulness. It suggests you do not really care. Conversely, I took an old high school friend on a date once. However, she did not put on any makeup, wore her glasses, sweatpants, hair up, and so forth. I have no problem with this if that is her usual style. However, I have seen her go out before, and she definitely dresses up. To me, this gave off a vibe. The amount of effort she put in suggested that this was not a very meaningful evening to her. The impression was, is this even a date? She is probably just catching up with an old friend. So I would save the coupons for after the first date, personally. You can use them, but you have to do so tactfully. Story 38. Cheap date implies that the other person on the date is not expensive to take out. It refers to someone who will order the inexpensive item instead of the most expensive. It is also often used to describe a lightweight drinker who lowers their standards after only a few inexpensive drinks. A person paying with a coupon might be called a cheapskate, which implies that someone is frugal and does not know the right time to splurge. Story 39. Many women assess a man's interest in them based on the amount of money he is willing to spend on courting. Story 40. I would be upfront about it before going out. If she cannot handle a man who might need to save money, then save yourself the time and money. Story 41. That's part of the mentality of people who believe men should jump through hoops for women because it is how men should be, but would criticize you if you suggested they should follow traditional gender roles as well. Find a girl who will evaluate you based on who you are as a person and not by what you can do for her. Story 42. Women who use coupons are also insulted and mocked for it, sometimes by people who are frugal themselves. Many people are hypocrites, so expecting an entire society to not be hypocritical is unreasonable. Story 43. I'm a pretty good storyteller. I took my wife to a really expensive restaurant in town she had once said she would like to try. I don't need to win her affection, but she's with me for my motorcycle riding bad boy image, even though I don't ride a motorcycle. I do look and act as I should. I'm confident, loud, and wear functional clothing. I can back up what I say with my strong presence. I've only ever been in 2 fights, and I can't say I've ever won. Things are often none of your business, because I like privacy. Questions like, "How did you?" are answered with, "I know a guy," even if that guy is me and I did whatever. So I tell her to dress up because we have reservations. This could be anywhere. I'm putting on my Sunday clothes, so she puts on something nice. We pull up and she says, "We can't afford this." I say, "I know a guy." This makes me sound connected and in the middle of some petty crimes. I'm dangerous and exciting. That guy is some Costco gift cards with a 20% dollar-for-dollar discount. When I pay at the table, I say, "Kirkland said he'll cut me a break." As I place the cards instead of my credit card in the bill portfolio, my wife isn't dumb. She's on to my trick. It still gets her going. Story 44. I mean, when you take your special lady out and ask her to lie and say it is her birthday so she can get a free side at Denny's, you might be cheap. Story 45. Because we are not meant to save money on women. They are so wonderful that we are expected to spend all our savings on making them happy. This started as sarcasm, but I realized it is the game plan for married life. If you show that you are not willing to spend significantly to make her happy, then you are obviously not as infatuated as she wants you to be, making the prognosis for marriage less than optimal from her perspective. Story 46. Sounds like you found someone who is not compatible. That is fine. You will find a sweetheart who can appreciate 4 for $10 at Arby's. Story 47. Fascinating. I have never heard of this before. I have no problem when my husband uses his military discount at a restaurant that accepts it. Even when we first met, if he was paying and there was a discount available, I thought it was rather smart. Having said this, we are a gay couple, so I think that by nature we are more interested in saving money. I can't imagine that you would be considered cheap for using a discount available to you, whether it is military affiliation, coupons, or gift certificates. To me, that is not cheap. That is smart. Story 48. In my experience, people who think that way are either those who have never had to consider money or are simply financially irresponsible. These people are not usually individuals I want to spend extended periods of time with. Story 49. If getting a discount is a negative for her, move on. If you want to make light of it, you can say this gives extra money for the tip or to spend on her. Story 50. Try splitting a check on the date. Women are all for it. Once you do split it, they will remember that, just like Peppermint Farms. Story 51. A lot of people equate financial value with effort value. I believe there are ways to show effort other than financially, but many of those are not as easy to implement on a first date. Examples include choosing a thoughtful date location or activity and paying attention to conversation topics. Ultimately, for many individuals, first dates are formalities. However, some people still desire the fantasy of being swept off their feet metaphorically, and being overly pragmatic can be a turnoff to these people. Story 52. Honestly, I do feel weird about using coupons during a date. You would probably be better off planning a date that does not require much money, like a picnic or something. Using a coupon during a date seems like an easy way to ensure no follow-up date. I cannot come up with any rational reason, but I cringe at the idea. I do not think I would ever use a coupon on a date because whatever little money I saved would not be worth it. Story 53. It suggests that you chose that place to save money, not because it was the best option for a date or meal. Maybe it is both, and if you meet someone you are compatible with, they will understand. If not, they will not. Story 54. It sounds like these dates have not been married or divorced and do not know what a truly expensive date is. Story 55. If she calls you a cheap date for saving money, she is not worth it. I have gone on dates using online offers and deals, and honestly, if I was called cheap for it, I would just get separate checks or pay separately. Do not think about it too much. Story 56. Cheap date usually refers to low alcohol tolerance. I would skip the coupons on early dates, though. It sort of sends the message that she is worth 10% off. Story 57. Let those people go find a spender, then they can both be poor. Do not get upset. Even people show you what they are. Story 58. We are not called this. You were called this one time. I understand that you just got divorced and are understandably angry, but generalizing one unpleasant experience you had to all men and women is a bad move. What happened to you signals that the person you went on that date with is not right for you. It is not your cue to go online and start a rage fest about how unfair societal expectations are to men. Also, why do you support the idea that the future is female? I strongly dislike that sexist notion. If women think they will hold men down and be in a superior position in the future to make up for past repression, they will find out the hard way that there is no symmetry between the sexes. Men are generally bigger, stronger, more aggressive, and will not tolerate that behavior long-term. Story 59. This does indeed appear to be a double standard, at least logically. But this is not about logic. It is about biology, and signal theory explains why. When a woman uses coupons or saves money, it signals resourcefulness, especially in a world where female independence is socially reinforced. It says, I can take care of myself. For women, this does not signal they are unattractive. It signals they are adaptive. When a man does the same thing on a date, the message signals something different, not because women are hypocrites, but because they are biologically wired to look for signals of stability, provision, and selective investment. It is not about the money itself. It is about what the act of spending, or refusing to, says about your capability and confidence. Jeffrey Miller's signal theory explains that attraction is less about what you are and more about what you broadcast. In mating psychology, the most attractive traits are costly to fake. That is why showing generosity, ambition, or decisiveness wins more attention than bragging about them ever will. When you penny pinch during a date, what you are signaling is not that you exhibit great financial wisdom. What you are really broadcasting is insecurity, a scarcity mindset, or emotional stinginess. You are saying, I am not confident I can afford this. I calculate cost more than connection. Or, I treat you like a liability, not a priority. That is not attractive in any way, shape, or form. It is not because she is entitled, but because those signals feel like early warning signs of emotional and material unreliability. You do not need money. You need to signal strength. Can you not drop $100 on dinner? Fine. Then craft an experience that costs little but says something valuable about you. Take initiative and lead with taste. Design an experience that shows any or all of the following: creativity, unique date ideas, emotional generosity, thoughtful attention to detail, stability, follow-through, not flakiness. Show that you are a man who builds, solves, plans, and leads. If you cannot signal abundance with money, then do it with competence, confidence, and connection. In summary, she is not calling you cheap because you did not spend. She is reacting to the low status signal of how you framed the experience. In her nervous system, that translates to, will I feel safe with this man? Will I be treasured or tolerated? You do not have to be rich, but you do have to make her feel chosen. Signal that, and you will never be called a cheap date again. Story 60. If my partner just bought and cooked us frozen pizza and lit a candle, I would be very happy. It is usually the indecision that gets to me. I understand that you want to save money, but do not keep endlessly scrolling through multiple apps to find the best offer for an hour before deciding on something to save like $5. Time is money too. Story 61. I would not be offended at all if a man used a coupon on a date. That shows smart money management. The only reason some women get offended is that they equate the amount of money spent to their worth. Story 62, because it communicates, I chose this place because it is inexpensive, and not, I chose this place because the food is good, the atmosphere is good, it is a new place I have been wanting to try, it has something I thought you would enjoy, etc. Story 63. Our culture teaches women that they should be treated like queens and boys to spoil them like princesses. When you treat someone like a reasonable adult who is trying to be responsible, they do not feel valued like in a Disney movie. You are to blame. Story 64. Do you mean cheapskate? A cheap date usually implies that you do not need to spend money to impress your partner. Story 65. I've never once been called inexpensive. My first date choice was coffee when I was single. I was broke in my mid-20s. I never had an interest in paying for a first date anyway. I am not buying a woman. Story 66. If a man does not have it, it is what it is. I remember my time in the game. I had a car and a condominium. Because I proved that I had it, women liked the inexpensive date just fine. Story 67. Taking someone to the supermarket and using coupons at the checkout is an unusual choice for a date. Each to their own, though friend, both thrifty and practical. Story 68. Maybe it's a good conversation to have before going out on a date. It's been a long time since I dated anyone, but from what I remember, it's about leaving a good impression. If you talked about how to find loopholes and game the system, then maybe it could be a lot of fun to see how much money you could save on the first date. To me, that actually sounds like a super fun first date. The best way to maximize value is using discounts you find together as a team-building activity. The only better thing than a successful first date is that you both had the chance to make a game out of it. I miss coupons. I wish stores would bring them back instead of digital apps. Story 69. The movement isn't about equality anymore. It never really was, but that's a whole other issue. It's about privilege and special treatment. If a man doesn't treat her like the fierce queen she is, then he's disrespecting her and her status. She wants to feel special if the man is in her league. I say in her league because that's when she expects special treatment. If she sees him as above her, she'll be happy with any attention from him in any form. She'll give it up without a date, be his drunken 2 a.m. booty call. But when the positions are equal or she feels like she's just giving him a chance, she needs him to impress her. If he doesn't treat her specially or spend a lot of money on her, then either she's not worth what she thinks she is, which is impossible, or he's defective and cheap. They know money is tight and it's impractical to spend a lot on someone you don't know. But knowing and feeling are different. She needs to feel special and beautiful, like he's lucky to be in her presence. Even if this date means he doesn't eat for a week, she's worth it. Or if he has to starve to have a date with her, he's not good enough for her to begin with. Which is funny because even though they want that princess treatment, it also gives them discomfort when a man gives too much of himself. What it boils down to is this. If she expects you to spoil her before knowing she's worth it, she simply doesn't like or isn't attracted to you enough. This whole future is female, and yes, queen culture has many women thinking they're better than they are and entitled. Story 70. What do you mean by discount? Like you're taking me to a buffet, which is fine, but pulling out coupons. Not gonna lie, that would be a little weird. I'd rather we go for pizza and have a very low-cost, low-key date that you're comfortable with, or I'd rather you request I pay for my portion. Being frugal isn't necessarily a bad thing. For me, it has nothing to do with wanting you to spend a certain amount on me because I don't, but the vibe it sets. If you can't afford a certain place and pull out coupons on the first date, I'll feel bad and it ruins the mood. Also important, if we go out and you want to pay but don't tip or don't tip appropriately, that's a deal breaker. Being cheap to ensure financial stability is fine. Being cheap at someone else's expense is not. If you disagree with tipping culture, then don't go out. The reality is when we don't tip, the server takes money out of their own pocket to pay bussers and runners their percentage. We live in a tipping country, so refusing to acknowledge it hurts no one but the server, and I'm not with it. If you've been together for a while and say, hey, I actually found a deal for this place we don't go to because it's expensive, but we can if we use it, that's totally fine. But the first few times, I'd rather not feel like I put you in a position to spend beyond your means. I don't want to go to a spot that you need to use a coupon for. If you're paying, let's go somewhere you're very financially comfortable with. It could be Shake Shack. Story 71. It's one thing to save on everyday items. Use coupons for groceries, drive a bit further for cheaper gas, buy a coat in the summer when it's on sale, and so on. It's even fine if you have a coupon for a restaurant and it's just a casual Tuesday dinner with no one wanting to cook. Go ahead and use it. However, if you've asked someone on a date, it should not be an everyday occurrence. Even if she is your wife, a date should feel special and intentional. It does not have to be lavish, but among all the things in life for which you pay full price, let one of them be her entree. Story 72. Think about if your boss throws a party and only serves hot dogs and ketchup. Your reaction would not be, nice of him to save money. You would think he was cheap. If you invite someone out and then cut a lot of corners, the person feels like they are not worth much to you. Of course, you can change this dynamic if you are upfront about it. Some people are just ungrateful gold diggers, but you get my point. Story 73. Because male standards are not equal to female standards. If a woman can cover her own bill, she is considered independent and empowered. However, for a man, he is not respected until he can cover his bill and her bill. I do not make the rules, brother. You just have to accept the burden of manhood. Story 74. Women want to feel like an effort was made. It's not that it's cheap, but meeting me at the local bar or coffee shop as a first impression for dates just kind of says, I think leaving the house counts as a date. Go get watercolor paints and picnic supplies, rent kayaks on a nice lake or whatever. You can put effort into a date without breaking the bank. Story 75. When you use coupons at the grocery store, you are presumably buying regular items to feed yourself on a regular day. When you take someone out on a date, you are trying to impress them. See the difference? No one has ever been impressed by being told they aren't worth full price. That is true for dates, business dinners, or any situation where the point is to show off a little. If you do not want to show off, that is fine. Just know that some people will not be into that, and that is also fine. Not everyone will be interested. Also, what is wrong with a woman wanting a partner who is well off? Is the suggestion here that women are not allowed to have preferences? Would you date a woman who weighed 600 pounds, was unattractive, or was a vegan? People can have preferences. This is not a double standard or an attempt by women to get one over on you. Personally, I would not seriously date a woman who wanted to use a coupon on a date. Preferences. Story 76. Because they want to get the most out of your money. If you save on discounts, they feel scammed. Generation Z got this right. Don't interact with a woman who isn't ready to go out on a cheap, no-effort date with you. If she acts like she deserves the world on the first date, imagine what she would expect from a long-term relationship. Story 77. Not every woman expects that, nor does it mean that every woman who expects that is broken. They want you to show that you do not care about a little dinner. It shows financial freedom and mobility. I only do coffee or drinks if I am really interested for a first meeting. You can have a nice dinner on me, but I need to first assess if you are actually worth my time, money, and effort. If that scares her off, thank you, next. Story 78. If someone calls you a cheap date in that scenario, pay your half, leave them with their half of the bill, and move on. Story 79. Find someone who will split the bill on a date so everyone benefits from the discount. Guys save all day in the checkout line. Some people think a date is not a good place for a discount. If you disagree, Find someone who agrees. Story 80. They do not care about saving our money. They care about getting the best value for their time, which means they want to gain with minimal cost or risk. Those who do want a relationship will not put a price tag on that. I would only take them out on nicer dates after we have gone out a few times. Weed out the ones who just want free food or entertainment. Story 81. Not a man, but depends on the girl. Depends on the date. The coupon or discount may signal that she is not worth the expense, or that you are cheap, or possibly that she does not make a good income, or even more likely that she is more concerned about saving money than enjoying a nice night out. It is not bad to use a discount, but on a first date or early dates, it can give a false impression. Once you get to know each other, it can be okay to use coupons. Just do not choose a restaurant because of the savings. Go on dates because you want to have a good time at a specific place. Story 82. Because the person calling you that is actually telling you they are completely rotten inside and deserve to be left alone. Story 83. May be unpopular, but I agree with them on this one. I believe you are supposed to be spoiling your date, not taking them somewhere convenient for you. If that is where she wants to go and it happens to work out for you, then go ahead and bring the coupon. However, if it is your suggestion to go there just because you have the coupon, I think the date could have been more thoughtful. Edit. Maybe spoil is not the right word. Everyone seems to think I am saying you have to spend money. I am saying you need to think more about what she would like rather than what is convenient for you. There are plenty of affordable dates that fit that description. Story 84. Women on average are far more transactional by nature. It is what it is. Additionally, they are far more susceptible to social media where influencers, mostly sugar babies and prostitutes, often post faked luxury lifestyles. Too many women get the impression that this is normal and average. When discussing percentages, statistical probability, and bell curve distribution, they often lose interest or their gaze starts wandering. Story 85. This is something you should stop complaining about and go with the flow if you want to have a good dating life and eventually settle down. The idea is not about being cheap, but rather demonstrating that you are a serious suitor willing to commit your resources, time, money, and emotions to her. You will be miserable and unattractive to women if you make a big deal out of this. Story 86. As a woman, I think using coupons when you have them is smart. However, I will judge you if you tip based on the discounted price instead of the original price because I used to be a server. Story 87. In general, a woman is instinctively looking for a good provider. When a man has sufficient wealth to spend on a date with her, he demonstrates that he is a good provider by having saved enough so that the expenditure is not an imposition. This is an instinctual behavior and does not consider modern factors like credit cards. On the other hand, women attending social events may have strong reactions when they see another woman wearing the exact same outfit. It is not about the outfit itself or what men might think, but rather what other women might think. The purpose of wearing an expensive dress is to show that the man she has chosen is a good provider. She signals her own status to other women by demonstrating that she has found someone worth being with because he can afford a truly custom outfit for her. When she encounters another woman wearing the same attire, others may interpret this as economizing, suggesting she cannot secure enough resources from her partner to afford a unique outfit. This implies that she has chosen poorly as a mate. Such perceptions cause a significant drop in her status among other women. Story 88. Women, you just have to be subtle with it or save the coupon for next time. It is a psychological thing for them. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.